Hello, Recapped Mystery here. Today, I'm going to explain an action thriller film, Two Guns. Watch out and take care. We observe two men, Stig and Bobby, walking into a Texas town. Stig goes to eat at a diner, and across the street, Bobby goes to the bank and requests to buy a safety deposit box. Bobby then joins Stig at the diner, where he flirts with the waitress. Bobby tells him to make a move, and Stig gets up and sets fire to the diner. The film then flashes back 3 weeks to show Bobby and Stig in beautiful Mexico. Bobby goes to see his friend Toro, but when he arrives, he discovers Toro's head in a bag. Following that, he travels to meet Papi Greco, a prominent drug boss. He gives Papi several forged passports. Bobby is disappointed when Papi hands over a large sum of money in exchange. Bobby claims he was expecting for narcotics in exchange, but Papi refuses to offer drugs. He no longer trusts Bobby after discovering that Toro was betraying him and murdering him. Bobby returns the cash and instructs Papi to contact him if he is interested in completing a narcotics deal. Leaving the passports with him, Papi informs Bobby that he wishes to purchase a 1963 Impala convertible, and Bobby offers to drive it across the border into Mexico on his behalf. The picture then turns to Stig, who is hanging out with Greco's guys, who have buried some chickens to shoot them. Stig mocks them for having heinous goals, and when irritated, blows off the heads of the chickens to demonstrate how good his aim is. Stig then departs with Bobby as they make their way back to America. On the way, Stig suggests that they rob the bank where Greco keeps his money, but Bobby is skeptical. They cross the border, but are swiftly arrested by police and put into custody to be questioned in separate rooms. Bobby is shown to be an undercover DEA agent rather than a criminal. He notifies his boss, Jessup, that he was unable to obtain the chemicals needed to condemn Papi Greco. He doesn't inform Jessup about Toro's death because he's afraid they'll pull him away from the task, and he says he's almost done with Altero. In a different room, Deb is seen trying to get Stig to talk, but he is his typical self and flirts with her while pretending to be innocent. She eventually gets up and joins Jessup in chatting to Bobby. Jessup is concerned for Bobby's safety, but he insists that after spending the last 3 years of his life crawling through Mexican gutters and becoming close to Papi, he will not back down now. Agent Deb agrees with Bobby, and Jessup eventually gives him 2 more weeks. Bobby and Deb are later spotted in bed together at a motel. Bobby informs her that Toro has died and that she is unable to inform Jessup. He claims that Stig intends to rob a bank in Tres Cruces, Texas, and that he will assist him in obtaining the safety deposit box where Greco keeps his money. They can track it back to Greco and charge him with money laundering and tax evasion. He claims she may arrest Stig at the scene, send him in jail for 20 years, and receive a medal. Deb finally agrees. The next day, Bobby visits Stig at his home and informs him that he has agreed to participate in the bank robbery. Stig describes how it was odd that the border guard was certain they were carrying drugs, and that they would have if Papi had supplied them to them. Stig appears to be about to confront Bobby for fooling him, but he is only joking. They then proceed to Greco's home to spy on him. We learn that Greco goes from Mexico with a briefcase full of cash every 2 weeks and spends a week in America with his mistress and child before returning. They watch as a man arrives to grab the briefcase and pursue him. The man drives to the bank, obviously to deposit the money. Bobby advises Stig to go to the diner across the street from the bank since one should never rob a bank with a diner nearby that offers officers donuts. This is a scene from earlier in the film in which Bobby goes over to open a safe deposit box. Stig goes to the diner, and they both depart after setting it on fire. Bobby sees Deb again and informs her that Stig intends to loot the bank tomorrow, with or without Bobby, and Deb should catch them at 3:05. While Bobby is leaving the motel, we observe Stig leaving to meet with someone. This turns out to be Naval Lieutenant Quince, who offers Stig some supplies for their robbery. So we learn that Stig is also an undercover officer, a Navy SEAL, aiming to bring Papi down. Quince instructs Stig to assassinate Bobby and flee with the money so that they can utilize it for covert operations. The robbery goes off without a hitch the next day, as Stig and Bobby tie up the cops in the police station before robbing the bank. Surprisingly, they discover far more money than the estimated $3 million. Bobby keeps looking at the time as they prepare to load the $43.125 million into their car, but Deb does not arrive to arrest them. They eventually load up the car and stop in the desert to plan their next move. Bobby is about to draw his gun on Stig, but Stig stops him. He shoots him in the arm instead of killing him. He also discovers Bobby's D badge, but is at a loss for words and drives away with the money. The picture then turns to a man named Earl, who is investigating the crime at the bank. He walks out to observe the burned-down diner and is skeptical of it rather than dismissing it as a coincidence. Stig takes all of the money to Quince, who is not startled to find $43.125 million instead of the expected $3.125 million. Stig inquires about Bobby, but Quince dismisses him and directs that the funds be sent to a naval installation in Corpus Christi. Quince questions Stig about Bobby, who admits to not having killed him, and they both leave to find him. Meanwhile, Bobby tries to catch a ride, but two ostensibly border security personnel question him. He pulls out his revolver and steals their car. Back to Stig, he realizes Quince is up to no good and begins attacking the Navy guys. He manages to flee, frightened for his own safety. Bobby, on the other hand, has found a vet to treat his bullet wound. Following that, he finds Deb in a hotel and confronts her about not showing up. She says she did, but he left early, and then goes to meet her boyfriend. Bobby then makes plans to capture Stig and goes to his home to break in and gather information. Stig has a sniper aiming at his residence and is attempting to contact with Bobby when naval personnel approach and attack them. Bobby and Stig, on the other hand, are able to flee. Earl reappears, this time questioning the vet who treated Bobby's injuries. Bobby goes to Jessup's house to plead for help, but Earl is already there. Having invaded Jessup's residence, he assaults Bobby and questions him about his money, but Bobby pretends to be innocent. Earl then shoots Jessup using a gun that has Bobby's fingerprints. Bobby is currently in a state of disarray. The next morning, Bobby drives over to Greco's house and pulls his revolver on him, but then Stig appears and takes charge. He forces Greco into his own car and manages to flee Bobby. Bobby pursues them, and they end up fighting in the middle of the desert. When the two of them decide to calm down, Bobby asks who Stig is, and the two of them officially identify themselves. They now decide to collaborate and take Poppy to Deb's garage to question him. When they question him about the money, he discloses that Earl is a Black Ops operator to whom Greco reports, and the money they stole was CIA payments. Greco and other cartels have been made to pay a 7% share in exchange for utilizing CIA planes to move goods across the border. Quince's hit team attacks the garage. Bobby, Stig, and Deb flee, as does Poppy, who summons his crew. Bobby suspects Deb and wonders how they knew about Deb's residence, but all three are ambushed and kidnapped by Poppy and transported to his farm in Mexico. Stig and Bobby are beaten until Stig confesses that the money is stashed in a naval base. Earl pays Greco a visit and urges him to raise his cut and goes. Greco chooses to keep all of the money for himself and assigns Stig and Greco the responsibility of recovering it, or he will kill Deb. Stig and Bobby are transported to Mexico, where they steal a van in order to get access to the naval installation. Stig tells Bobby how he met Quince at a hotel and learned where the money was going there. Bobby recognizes the hotel's name because it is the same one where he met Deb, where Deb had said she was meeting her boyfriend. Stig and Bobby continue their infiltration of the facility, and Stig puts Bobby off at Quince's office while he goes to visit the commanding officer, Admiral Toei. He tells the person everything, and the guy informs Stig that the Navy never assigned him such a mission. Stig realizes that this was Quince's goal all along and approaches the Admiral for assistance. The Admiral refuses to assist and defends Stig while arresting Quince. Meanwhile, Bobby went to confront Quince and discovered that he is Deb's lover. Bobby deduces that the money must be hidden with Deb after Quince unlocks his safe to show he doesn't have it. The base then attempts to catch Bobby, but he disguises himself as a naval officer by stealing a uniform and slips away after creating a distraction with a blast. Greco phones Bobby about the money after 24 hours. Even though Deb warns him he won't be able to find it, Bobby tries to protect her by stating he has it, but Greco shoots her nonetheless. Bobby returns home to find Deb's body and realizes where the money must go. He returns to the motel where they had slept and discovers all of the money under the mattress. Meanwhile, Stig has arrived at Greco's farm to exact revenge. When Quince arrives, Earl joins the party and demands his money, so he and Greco decide to split the money and kill Stig. Bobby shows up in a '63 Impala with all the money before it can be revealed that Stig doesn't have it. He hands Earl the key, but then blows up the automobile, resulting in a gunfight. During a confrontation, Earl discloses that the CIA has 20 more secret banks, and the $43.125 million loss is really a minor setback. Stig shoots Earl, and Bobby shoots Quince. After signaling Stig with a remark from an earlier chat, Bobby and Stig kill Poppy and flee, but not before Bobby shoots Stig in the leg as retaliation for shooting him in the desert. Bobby discloses to Stig that he did not blow up all of the money while preparing to continue shutting down the CIA's hidden banks and sabotaging their dark operations. Please subscribe to assist the channel, turn on notification and leave a like. Thank you for taking the time to watch. See you again soon.